Hello and welcome to Straight Talk, Supply Chain Insights, the podcast for your supply chain leader who is on the go and wants to be in the know. And now, your host, Lora Cecere.
Welcome to Straight Talk with Supply Chain Insights. My name is Lora Cecere. I'm the founder of Supply Chain Insights, and this podcast is designed for business leaders who are on the go but want to be in the know. Today, we're going to talk about the use of large language models, which is often synonymous with artificial intelligence in most conversations, but shouldn't be, and the use of large language models for training. In my outside-in training class, I've actually been working with Uthereal, who is on the phone today, on building an expert model on large language, and I am joined by Peter Bolstorff, who I met through work with the SCORE Council and his work with ASCM. And Peter has been working on use of artificial intelligence in supply chain. So let's start with some introductions. Who wants to go first? Just tell the group a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Peter Bolstorff. I am the founder and CEO of Inspirece. Have long worked in the supply chain industry over 30 years. Again, I'm a plan make guy if we go back to that. So been through every iteration of planning from an implementation standpoint. My home industry was 3M, which was a conglomerate. We worked in media and other industries. And I have been a longtime fan and colleague of Lora. And anytime she asks, I say, how can I help? So love to share my insights around, I'm going to call it the practical side of AI from a user perspective, and I'll pass it along.
Okay. How about my new friend from the UK? You want to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your company?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Wael, and I'm a CEO and co-founder of Uthereal.ai. My background has always been in data and AI. I used to work for AWS, Amazon Web Services, helping customers build data platforms, AI platforms for various use cases, whether it's research, whether it's performing business analytics, whether it's performing business actions. Last year, I made the leap to start my own startup and focus on AI for expert areas. And this is where we working very closely with Lauren, building an AI model that can help her users in her training and making sure that they get the information they need. It's on demand, it's multilingual, it's helping the user kind of go through the training material and hopefully achieve a higher level of understanding.
So, Wael, how did you build the expert model that I'm using in the outside-in training class? How did you build it? How long did it take? What tools did you use?
Sure. So basically, when we work with experts such as yourself, it's very important to start always from the knowledge that you have. So in your case, you have an amazing set of blogs and ebooks and podcasts and videos. You created a very, very rich subject matter expert in this area, which was pretty amazing to go through. It was a very unique, I would say, experience for us, because usually experts don't have the expert is not that available, or they didn't make much effort, but clearly you made a lot of effort. And this made it super easy for us and for the AI as well. So the first step is always to make sure that we capture this data. And then the data goes through a lot of processing, and let's say we process it, we organize it, and then we store it in such a way that the AI can dip into it, and the large language model can dip into it and find the relevant information that the user wants to learn and formulate it based on the user intent or the user, let's say, previous conversations with the AI and level of knowledge about the topic, where we can serve it also to them in such a digestible way based on what they're asking. So it's a system by which we use a large language model, but then we tell the large language model, make sure you respond to the user using Laura's content, Laura's knowledge, and her way of explaining things and the way she explained things. Do not hallucinate. If you don't know anything, don't say, don't make it up. If it's not in her content, don't say it, which is actually tricky to make AI do, because
Right.
it really tries to be helpful. It really tries to make things
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's been very helpful to have the use of the large language model for people in the class. Currently, we have 80 people going through the class, North America and Europe, and they are able to look at the language and the large language model in their language, and they're able to learn. But also, I get a report every week about the questions they're asking, which is very insightful for me as an instructor. And Peter, I know you've been doing a lot of work in this area, and we've been brainstorming about how companies could use large language models inside the company. Often I'll go to a company and somebody will ask, like, what is the run rate on line X, or how have we done over time, or which supplier has the worst, quality, right? Nobody can answer. But, as we think about training and we think about data in the organization, I think it's a natural use case for large language. What's your thought?
One of the fascinating things, and I have to say for the audience, I was a tester. I would not call myself a trainer. I tried not to hallucinate. I love that phrase, by the way. I'm gonna use that again someday. So I think the challenge with all models is, how do I couple what I'm gonna call unique interior or inside expertise? And how do I make sure that I'm able to engage with things that are somewhere in the public domain, right? And so I think that challenge was comprehended and managed through in this particular project. And I was pretty excited about that. Of course, everybody knows that I'm a pretty big fan of the SCORE model, which is, of course, public accessible, along with the dictionary and terms and those things. So I was very excited that we took a shot at somehow incorporating or relating I'm going to call it the outside in public data within the expert system.
Yeah, and so we put it in there, and it's very helpful for comparison of the definitions. And it was pretty easy to put in there. But I just think about all of these companies spending so much money on training that I think is outdated and can't really learn over time. And I think large language models and expert models are a great opportunity to do that. And, it was a pleasure to work with Wael to build that. And, it was pretty simple to do with him. And I think, it's something that people could do for about 10% of what they're paying current trainers to do. So I'm excited about the use case. And Peter, we talked about how we could drive workflow off of, knowledge about what the organization is doing compared to the research or benchmarking or planning master data for alerting and discovery. And I'm very excited about that too. So any new thoughts, Peter?
I do. So again, a math teacher by trade. So this whole idea around the education of an individual or a group of people is near and dear to my heart. And I think what we know is that the most learning, the max learning, and the max retention happens when I can arrive at a problem, pull in new knowledge, solve the problem, be reinforced for that problem being solved, and then move on to the next one. So that I think the idea of studying a bunch of content for 3 months, taking a test, and then hoping that I retain that information until I run into the problem, I think, again, that satisfied a lot of our learning needs in the past. But I think what the new platforms are providing, at least reactively, is the ability to be able to apply knowledge at the point of the problem. And, so that, again, with the interface that I was using is, hey, I'm running into a safety stock problem. Let's talk about that concept, in the context of what's standard and how do I apply the expert and experience from Lora's in solving that problem, and then solve the problem, as it relates to my current systems. And then, and again, as you do the follow-up, did it work? And then you have that feedback loop that now the system of record is capturing. And I think that's exciting. I know education and learning is one of the hotbeds of AI application. second probably to, the IT industry, computers and whatnot. So
Well,
anyway,
I think about it as insights at the speed of business, right? As, and it's
you should have been in
digestible.
marketing.
I was at one time.
Yeah.
Digestible, in a role-based view, right? And, it helps us to answer. So when I think in the future, where are large language models going and how do people maximize expert models? Because what we've got here are expert models. They're not like, what you've got out there with Chat GPT. It's where you've condensed my content and we've added some of the SCORE and the ASM content, some of the Georgia Tech content. So it's kind of an expert model. And I'm envisioning that companies could build expert models with their internal documents, things like, how do they make products? What's their quality data? Who their suppliers are? Augment it with the SCORE and the ASCM and research data, but it could be an expert model for them. But, for the person that really doesn't, have exposure to this, where are large language models going and how should people best use the technology?
Sure. So, my vision is that in the future, companies will have to build this large language model to represent their knowledge. In fact, I have the vision in 10 years that if a company buying another company will say, "Where is your LLM? Where's your how do I dip into your insights? Where did you do this?" I feel this is going to become a requirement for even companies to consider working with other companies, because then you condensed everything and then you're making their expertise a lot more accessible. So in terms of the progress of the technology, here is what's going on now, and this is getting very exciting. So there is the use case of get the expert knowledge and let this be almost like just a token. Like people come in, they get the advice or the expert knowledge they need, but then essentially, the second phase of this is that your expert AI will be solving problems for other people. And that is what's exciting. People will be coming in and say, here's all my supply chain problems. They're not asking questions anymore. They're just bringing actual problems. And the AI will be able to go through the expert content and say, for this type of problem, this is the type of analysis I need to perform on what you've just given me. And it goes ahead and performs this analysis based on what they provided. Maybe they will upload a document. Maybe they will upload like a report. Maybe they'll upload a log full of supply chain incidents or issues, and then say, hey, these are all my incidents in the last year. How can I fix this? Then the expert model then will have to work a lot harder, needs to be a lot smarter. And this means there is going to be a stage where it's making it's using its reasoning side much more than just providing information. And I expect this to be some of the dominant things that AI is going to be doing in the next, and it actually started already. I mean, this year has been all about AI agents, which is what I've just been talking about. And I feel whoever is going to be able to harness this first is almost going to create an AI vertical business. This is in its own becomes like a huge business that you can let anybody interact with. And the beautiful things about this type of technology is very easy to integrate to. Extremely easy. It's not like you build an app somewhere and then they have all of these things that you need to integrate with an app. All you need to create maybe is few lines of code, and all of a sudden you have access to this huge expert that you can use within your organization, or even you can even sell access. It's going to be super exciting. But the direction is going more around, now that I have all this expert knowledge, let's do something with it in real life.
Which is great, as we think, Peter, about, the digital passport and, suppliers querying on carbon or recyclability or, circularity. I think the great use cases there, great use cases for training. I know you were going to say something and sorry, I cut you off.
No, again, there's so much going on in the brain, right? It's hard to keep it back a little bit. I just wanted to layer off of what Wael said. So I had a conversation with, I'm going to call it the SCORE AI community. So we have a monthly share. And one of the discussion points was this idea around agents. And I would love both Lora, your insight, and Wael on this one. So here's how the discussion went. First of all, people used singular agents. And, we had to correct that because it's not, it's agents. right? And so then we started talking, well, how do agents organize themselves? How do they verticalize or horizontalize? How do they become integrated with the data that they are being an agent on behalf of? And we started talking about the scored yes model. So there are agents who solve problems, there are agents who do tasks, there are agents who do the analysis, there are agents who make it pretty. And so this idea of a hierarchical organization of agents and purpose, whether it's augmentation or whether it's automation. And then we, of course, brought it back to the SCORE framework. So we've added this orchestration process, right, that has some tasks, but they don't do other things. I would love your insights on kind of, again, I think this year is the year of sorting out agents. Love your insights on this.
Making agents work. What do you think, Wael?
Yeah, we're currently building them actually, and it's been a really fun journey to do so. So yes, you're 100% right, Peter. It's not that straightforward. Like to get them to work together and not against each other. It's
Exactly.
very, and then to follow a procedure. So we have a POC where we're working with a business process, and then we basically have to distill this business process into steps. What needs to happen in this business process? What type of model need to perform each one? And I like what you said. There is one that is going to do analysis, one is going to do reasoning. But then there has to be an overarching policy.
Orchestrator.
Yeah, exactly. What are we trying to achieve here? And you would find it can get exponentially very complex very quickly, but
Yes.
also there's a line where you say, actually, we can manage this business process with that much. And this is the journey we're on. But in a nutshell, it is doable. It's very much doable. But it starts by really, really strong understanding of what are we trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And then the building blocks of what we're trying to achieve. And then you need to deploy almost like a reasoning side of it and a doing side of it. So one process will perform analysis, but then somebody need to double check that. Just like a hierarchical structure within a company, you have also the analyst performing the work, but the manager is checking that the result is correct. So you almost have to deploy some of those checks and balances as the agent is performing its work to make sure. And then there has to be some sort of a God level AI that says, oh, we're still doing this process. Yeah, you're not going off on a tangent and trying to do something else. So yes, it's very, very interesting area, and there's a lot of development happening there. And it's driven by, I think the people who are going to do this right are the people who understand very well the business process they're trying to do. And they have good understanding of what the AI is capable of and what it's not capable of. And then starting off with a very detailed, drawn out plan of how to implement it, and then implement it. And then when it works, this is when you hit the aha moment, and then you build on it.
Okay, well, that's what we've got for today. I think the organization of agents is a topic for another podcast. But, the point, Wael, that you're making is we can't automate what we're not clear on outcomes. And that's really been what I've been focusing on, is what drives value, what defines supply chain excellence. And I think that, Peter, people are worried about their jobs, but we're going to get routine tasks automated, but I think there's this whole new level of agent orchestration and agent definition and agent checking, agent orchestration that is a great opportunity for people. I went to Temple University for some graduate work, and I heard a person say that you're going to have 12 job opportunities in your lifetime that you haven't even thought about, right? And I think back when I came through school, I would never have thought about being a blogger. Well, we're going to have orchestration agents, and somebody out there is going to be really good at that. And I look forward to it. Thank you for joining us. Large language models, great opportunity for training to make data usable at the speed of business, are much lower cost, and a learning environment for all. Thank you for joining us today. This is Straight Talk with Supply Chain Insights. Thank you.